Prayer by the chaplain.
Loving and gracious God, we reach out to you for guidance and ask for the gift of wisdom for our elected leaders. Assist them to serve the common good of the people of our state with a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. May those shared principles which shaped our nation shine forth in the ways of government today. When tensions rise and patience runs thin, grant peace and understanding. Alleviate the professional and personal burdens of each and plant the seeds of hope in all hearts. As these dedicated public servants put in long hours away from home, watch over their families and give them consolation amidst their sacrifices. Bless all the staff members who support our representatives. Inspire all citizens to cherish democracy and participate actively in the life of our community. Let us honor those who struggled to gain and preserve for us this freedom. May we be good stewards of this land by remembering our rich heritage and committing ourselves to an ever brighter future for those who will come after us. Grant that our service today may become the promise of a better Minnesota for tomorrow. May God bless our legislators and their co-workers with good health, generous hearts, and the strong resolve to serve with distinction in the noble purpose for which they gather here at the Capitol. And may God bless America. Amen.
Members, our guest chaplain for today is the Very Reverend Joseph Johnson, Rector, Cathedral of St. Paul. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal for the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 87th session, 2012, 70th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Wednesday, February 8th, 2012.
If there are no objections, further reading the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will stand as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objections, the journal stands as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. Copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there are no objections, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objections, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File 1903.
Second reading. Introduction of House files. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report these House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 2157 through 2186.
First reading, House File 2157 through 2186. Report from the Committee on Rules and Administration.
Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Dean for the Committee on Rules, pursuant to Rule 121, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for today, for Thursday, February 9th, 2012. House File number 1766, 1515, 300, 1585, and 1770.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1766. The clerk will report the bill.
House File 1766 on the calendar for today, an act relating to human services.
Members, before we take up the bill, we have a special guest in the alcove to my left. Former member serving from 2001 through 2004 from Brainerd, Minnesota. Please help me welcome back former Representative Dale Walls. I call on the member from Washington, Representative Lohmer, to present your bill. 1 minute, please, Representative Lohmer. Members, please. If you could take your conversations to the alcoves, or even better yet, to the retiring room so that the representative can present her bill before the body, it would be appreciated. Representative Lohmer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House File 1766 is a bill that states that union dues or fair share fees cannot be deducted from child care assistance payments to daycare providers. This is a straightforward bill that prevents automatic withdrawals of union dues from child care subsidies. The taxpayer dollars that have been allocated for children's care should be spent on the children's care. Again, we want to assure that the money allocated to these children's care continues to be spent on what it was purposed to be spent on, the children. This money is the payment that these providers receive for caring for children. It is their money to spend however they wish. This bill protects kids, families, businesses, taxpayers, and parents. It assures that the money designated for child care is used for just that, child care. This bill does not say that the money that the child care provider earns cannot be used to pay union dues if a provider wishes to join the union. We are only making sure that they are able to decide this for themselves. I heard from many child care providers on this issue who agreed and were very supportive and grateful for this bill. Some testified that if union dues were automatically withdrawn and they were forced to pay these dues, they would have to stop taking children on CCAP. They would simply have to care for children private pay only. So I did not hear from anyone from the unions, and no one testified against this bill. So we're just asking for a green vote. Thank you very much.
Discussion to the bill. Discussion. Seeing no amendments at the desk, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File 1766.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. The member from Ramsey, Representative Slawick. 1 minute, please. Representative Slawick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Lohmer, I'm going to urge the members to vote against your bill for several reasons. First of all, members, the bill is premature. House File 1766 seeks to address a situation that doesn't even exist in Minnesota. No union election for child care providers has even taken place, and it may not ever take place. No one in Minnesota has proposed using deductions for these types of reimbursements for union dues or fair share fees. This bill is a proverbial solution in search of a problem. There is no problem. So it seems like a bill that is totally premature. Secondly, it seems that last year the Republicans proposed cuts to the affordable child care payments. Mr. Speaker, I wondered if Representative Lohmer would yield for a question.
She will yield. Representative Slawick.
Representative Lohmer, I wondered if you could tell me how much that the cut was made last year, proposed by the Republicans for the rate cut for child care subsidies.
The member from Washington, Representative Lohmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Slawick, that's not what this bill is about. Thank you.
Representative Slawick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Let's see, that's not what this bill is about. I thought this bill was about child care. I thought this bill was about payments to providers. I thought it was about those hard-working providers having the money in their pockets to spend it how they want. That's what the bill is about. It is about those people that are out there day after day caring for our kids, doing that good work, and keeping that going. Last year, members, the Republicans proposed a 5% cut to child care payments. 5%. In the end, after the shutdown and in the negotiations, it wound up to be a 2.5% cut. I just think if you really cared about what's happening with kids in Minnesota and you cared about what was happening with child care, this discussion should be about funding. It should be about what we're doing with child care. Because you know what this money does, members? It helps keep our working parents working. It helps them find affordable child care. And that is really important. Lastly, Representative Lohmer, I don't think we should be telling parents what they can do with their money, or the providers, I should say, what they should do with their money. They've earned that money. Why should we tell them that they can or cannot pay union dues, they can or cannot pay retirement, they can or cannot take out their health care? We all know. We get paychecks. We know what comes out of people's paychecks, and we know that we make those decisions. And why shouldn't our hard-working child care providers have the same opportunity to make those decisions that we do?
Discussion. The member from Stearns, Representative Gottwald, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker and members, Representative Slawick, I salute your care and concern for children and child care providers. Unfortunately, in our committee, when we heard this bill, we didn't hear that same concern. And what this bill is really about, members, what this bill is really about is what we've seen happen in other states already. So to say that this isn't going to happen or it's addressing something that wouldn't happen is a misnomer. The truth is, it has happened in other states who've done exactly the same thing. Let's take us back to the history of this, members. Governor Dayton decided to use his executive powers to force a unionization vote among private home-based child care providers. And now, what we've seen happen in other states that have done that is they take the money to pay union dues out of the payment before it gets to the providers. So before this is even their money to choose whether they want to spend it on union dues, it's being garnished, it's being taken, because that's what this is really about, members. Governor Dayton called for this election among home-based private daycare providers to expand union membership and garnish more union dues for unions. This is not about children. This is not about child care. This is not about empowering parents. This is about union power and union financing. And Representative Lohmer, I want to thank you for bringing this bill forward, because it is smart to get out in front of this kind of inappropriate use of public funds. We heard testimony from daycare providers who said, I would like to become a member of a union. I'd like to become a member of a union, but I disagree with the idea that you would take that money, garnish it from a payment that is intended to be used by the parents to pay for the care of their children, and force that to go immediately to a union for dues. They objected to that. We heard from other daycare providers in committee who said they do not want this. They think that this is in fact usurping their ability to decide what gets done with this. And as Representative Lohmer pointed out, these same daycare providers indicated they would no longer take people under the CCAP program. So we're talking about access to daycare, Representative Slawick and members. Access to daycare being cut off because Minnesota could very well do, and in fact has been following the path that other states have followed, where this is in fact being done. So this is absolutely appropriate for the legislature to weigh in on this. It is about preventing a union power play at the expense of our families and our children. Members, I urge a green vote.
Member from Douglas, Representative Franson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Lohmer, thank you very much for bringing this bill forward. As a former child care provider myself of about 5 years, I can empathize with the providers that are facing this situation, that union dues may come out of the subsidy payments that are meant for the care of their children. We are talking about monies that is going for the care of children. So my question, and I wonder, why do we want to take more money away from our children when there has already been a cut of 2.5% to the child care assistance program? Child care providers, and some child care providers have only children in their homes that receive the child care assistance program. In Michigan, they attempted, or they did, take union dues right out of the subsidy payments. Then March 1st, 2010, the DHS director in Michigan ended the contract citing the Union Council has not delivered on its original goals to enhance and improve the delivery of quality of care for children whose parents receive assistance from the department. That is why we will stop all funding, and because these providers are not state employees, we will also cease collecting union dues. This kind of direct end to the contract was and is only possible in Michigan because of the way the union was formed. In Minnesota, we are facing the same things. And when you look around the country and you see this unionization taking place of self-employed private business owners, we want to protect the business owners as they came to us asking us to do so. Therefore, I believe that it's a good legislative policy to make sure that we are preventing rather than acting upon something that has been passed and then scurrying and trying to figure out how to fix it. Union membership as far as child care providers go right now is voluntary. If you choose to join a union, there are options that the union provides to have union dues taken directly out of their checking account. If a person wants to join a union, this is possible already. So therefore, I do not believe that it is all that important to make sure that the union dues are being taken out of the subsidy payments. The executive order that Governor Dayton signed also states that union dues will not be mandatory or fair share fees. However, because the union has not been formed yet, we cannot determine whether or not, in fact, this will be true. Minnesota is not a right-to-work state, and therefore we cannot guarantee that this will not happen to our child care providers. This bill is not a bill that is against unions. This bill goes to protect our child care providers and allowing them to not have fees taken out of their paycheck. My grandfather, Peter Benzoni, was a wonderful union man. As many Democrats over there can attest that my grandfather did a lot of work for the unions. I don't want to tell people they cannot join a union. What I want for them to do is have the option. Thank you.
Discussion. The member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will Representative Lohmer yield, please?
She will yield. Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Lohmer. We had this come through the Commerce Committee, and I know you had another obligation that day, but I think one of the witnesses may have misspoke about the funds when they're paid out. And she was speaking in favor of the bill, but what she described, Representative Lohmer, is that once you've put in the hours and then you've submitted the hours to the department, you've actually earned the money. Is that a fair statement, or is that wrong?
The member from Washington, Representative Lohmer.
Thank you, Representative Atkins and Mr. Speaker. As far as I understand it, this is a voucher that goes to the child care provider to take care of the children. It's a voucher. It follows the child.
The member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Well, with due respect, Mr. Speaker, Representative Lohmer, that didn't quite answer the question. I just wanted to know when they actually earn the money. Because her point was that she had already, once you put in the hours and you send in the form, then you've earned the money. It's your money and they're just sending it out. And Representative Gottwald, perhaps you want to be of some assistance. I think it's kind of a critical point. Is it the department's money at that point, or is it the daycare provider's money? And Representative Lohmer, it looks like you're ready to maybe try again, so I'll let you do that.
She will yield. The member from Washington, Representative Lohmer.
Representative Adkins, this doesn't really have anything to do with this bill. The bill is about the child care subsidies. Union dues may not be taken out of the child care subsidies between the state of Minnesota and the provider. That's what this bill is about.
Member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Well, Representative Lohmer, that I find particularly acutely troubling. That has everything to do with this bill. And you all know it. Is this money, is it the department's money? And then your bill might make some sense. Or is it the individual daycare provider's money? And I'll pause if you two want to. I'll just wait. Representative Gottwald, if you'd like to weigh in, I'd welcome that. But the fact is, the money's been earned. What you're trying to do at this point is tell people how they can spend their own money. The daycare provider, unless the New Horizon representative was wrong, what she said was, once I send in my hours and I've done the work, Mr. Speaker, I've earned that money. And we proposed an amendment that would have said if they expressly authorized that it be spent in some fashion, that would be honored. That was defeated in committee, in spite of Representative Dowd did a nice job presenting the bill. But what we're talking about is somebody else's money, and what you're trying to dictate is how they can spend it. Regardless of whether it's on union dues or for a charity or to a 401k, that's just wrong. To be able to dictate to people how they can spend money that they have earned is not a message that I think we want to send. It's a big government, condescending, paternalistic message, and it's wrong. And on that basis alone, we ought to vote no. Thank you very much.
Member from Dakota, Representative Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I just wanted to highlight a point that we talked about in committee when this was being discussed that revolves around this very issue. And I just want to bring to members' attention, in Minnesota Statute 119B.03, Subdivision 3, it states that child care assistance provided through the Child Care Fund is considered assistance to the parent. And when this was brought up, House Research advised us, I was making the point and trying to ask the question, who does this money belong to, and at what point does it become, does it belong to the provider? And we were advised in committee that this program, CCAP funds, are considered assistance to the parent, not to the provider. Until the point that it is dispensed to the provider, it is considered assistance to the parent. So the way I understand that, and the way I see this bill, is that if at some point down the road union dues were to be taken out of CCAP at the county level before they're dispensed to the provider, we are taking funds that were intended for the parent at that point until they're dispensed to the provider. So members, I just want to bring people's attention to what is in statute. I think that this bill holds up what statute intends on who these dollars belong to, and once they are dispensed, they are then deposited into a provider's bank account for which they can spend it for the purposes of providing child care. But until that point, it is considered assistance to the parents. Thank you, members.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, my question is, where are the jobs bills? Why aren't we focusing on helping people get back to work? You know, once again, we have before us a bill that doesn't help grow jobs, and more importantly, is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. There's nothing in our statutes that says that there's going to be union dues provided to anybody or paid by anybody in the child care world. We're unnecessarily stepping, and Representative Atkins is absolutely right, we're unnecessarily stepping in and telling small businesses and the people of Minnesota who have earned this money that they don't know how to best spend their own money. That is what this bill is absolutely about. For no reason should we be doing this at this time. You know, I don't know if all of you saw the poll last night broadcast on KSTP that showed, you know, the governor at 50% approval, but this legislature at 17% approval, historically low rates. And no wonder, I would say, when Republicans are spending all of their time trying to fix problems that don't exist instead of working on what really matters to the people of Minnesota, and that is getting people back to work and growing our middle-class economy. We shouldn't be spending our time on this bill, once again, doing something that isn't at the core mission of what we ought to be about this session, which is getting people back to work, and I would urge people to vote no.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Washington, Representative Lohmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much, members, for hearing this bill today. I think that this is a very important bill, and I'm very thankful that we're hearing it today. I just want to reiterate that it seems like we are in agreement. I am saying the same thing that you are saying, that this money belongs to the daycare providers, and they should have the freedom to do with it what they want. And if they want to join the union or whatever they want to do to spend the money that they earn, I'm totally in agreement with that. And the whole point of the bill is that we're not going to have this money confiscated ahead of time. So again, I thank you, and I would urge a green vote.
The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and thank you, Representative Lohmer, for bringing this forward. If Representative Lohmer might yield for a question.
She will yield. Representative Dean.
Representative Lohmer, I see that you passed out looks like a form to be filled in, and this looks like a union membership form. Could you describe for the folks in the body, I don't know if people know what this is, but maybe you just want to describe what this form is and what the history of it is.
The member from Washington, Representative Lohmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Dean. Yes, I wanted to pass this out in case there was any question. If a person, and the daycare providers actually provided me with this form to show me that it is possible for them to have their union dues taken out of their bank account by this very simple form. So this is just so, in case anyone is concerned that it's not possible for them to do that, it's a very easy thing for them to do. Thank you.
The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Lohmer. It looked like a pretty easy form for me to understand and fill out. I just wanted to make sure that that's what it is. And that's what it is. If you're a daycare provider, members, and you want to join the SEIU, it's as simple as filling out this little card and mailing it in. Check box number option A or option B. You can supply your credit card or Visa. Have them directly deducted. It's as simple as filling out one side of a little card, putting a stamp on it, and putting it in the mail. That's what it takes if you want to join the union. We don't need an executive authority unionizing this or forcing an election upon small businesses. And I'm glad you brought up small businesses, Representative Thiessen. You seem to think that we don't have jobs bills. You seem to think that if we make it easier instead of harder for businesses to survive in the state of Minnesota, as we did the other day when we passed lawsuit reform, trying to give 5 little rays of hope breaking through the clouds onto the state of Minnesota, that we might be able to provide a better opportunity for job providers. I hope the governor signs those bills. By the way, those are jobs bills, because it's making it easier, not harder, for job providers in the state of Minnesota. And this bill, not a jobs bill? Are you kidding me? 11,000 small businesses forced unionized by a governor's executive authority? Are you kidding me? These are little tiny businesses, people just trying to hang on so that the neighbor can go to work every day and watch their kids in a licensed environment, highly regulated, trying to survive. We're making it a little harder instead of a little easier through executive authority. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Of course this is a jobs bill. Of course the governor overstepped. Of course the judge agreed. But we have to do this. We don't want to do this bill. We have to do this bill because we're trying to keep doors open. So thank you, Representative Lohmer, for bringing this common sense jobs bill to the floor. I would expect that we get a lot of green votes and so hopefully some help from the other side for another jobs bill, and hopefully the governor will sign this as well as the lawsuit reform bills that are currently on his desk. Appreciate a green vote from everybody. Thank you, Representative Lohmer, and for the folks who worked on this good bill.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 74 ayes and 55 nays, the bill is passed. Its title is agreed to. The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Mr. Speaker, I move the calendar of the day be continued.
Representative Dean moves that the calendar of the day be continued. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Again. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there are no objections, we will take action on these items first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail.
Westrom. Mariani moves that House File 2126 be recalled from the Committee on Education Reform and re-referred to the Committee on Higher Education Policy and Finance.
The member from Dakota, Representative Mariani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is my bill, and this was just a mistake from the front desk, and this bill does belong in higher education.
And I apologize, Representative Mariani from Ramsey County. Discussion to the motion. Discussion to the motion. Seeing no discussion, the motion prevails. The member from Dakota, Representative Bills, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege, Representative Bills.
Sorry about that, Mr. Speaker. There's a group of high school students here today from Rosemount, Minnesota, and some of them are current students, actually, that I see every morning first hour, and some are former students who were with me in the fall trimester, and some will hopefully be with me this spring after we get out of here really early. So I would like to recognize them. They're up in the gallery if they could wave. They are seniors at Rosemount High School.
Thank you, Representative Bills. Warm welcome to our students.
Western moves that House File 997 be recalled from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration and re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
The member from Grant, Representative Westrom, to your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I'm moving the House File 997 from Rules Committee back to the committee it last passed out of last year. That's the simple motion.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing no further discussion, the motion prevails.
House Concurrent Resolution Number 5, a House Concurrent Resolution adopting deadlines for the 2012 regular session. Dean moves that the House Concurrent Resolution Number 5 be now adopted.
Member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This members is our adoption of our committee deadlines for deadlines 1, 2, and 3.
Discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the motion prevails.
That's it.
We have to vote on it.
Announcements. Announcements.
Mike, don't we have to vote on a concurrent resolution?
Member from Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have two opportunities for you on Monday morning, members. We have guests from Utah coming in. Margaret Bird, the Executive Director of Children's Land Alliance Supporting Schools. It's about school trust land. And Kevin Carter, the Utah School Trust Lands Administrator, are coming to the Permanent School Fund Advisory Committee meeting on Monday morning from 9 to 11 in the basement hearing room in the State Office Building. And they're going to share with us some of the things they've learned that other states are doing regarding school trust lands. And you'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the following committees. On Tuesday, they will be visiting the House Environment Committee at 8:15, the House Education Finance Committee at 12:30, and they'll be at a joint meeting in the Senate at 2:30 on Tuesday afternoon, a joint Education and Environment Committee. And so watch for an email. We'll get you more information about that. The second opportunity is those in the House that are interested in the House Redesign Caucus. We're having a meeting on Monday at 10:30. The person that's going to be speaking to us is Dr. Angie Eilers, a recent Bush Fellow who has been conceptualizing an idea for statewide web-based clearinghouse of evidence-based best practices and programs. She and Peter Hutchinson will be coming and presenting that, so I invite you to both of these events. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McFarland. The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a couple of announcements. First, we do have joining us today homeschool students and their parents. So would they stand, please? I know some here on the front bench and some in the gallery. Homeschool students and parents, welcome. We know that you're also an important part of our school choice, so thank you very much.
Good. Well, it's bad, but...
And then, Mr. Speaker,
Representative Erickson.
my second announcement is that Education Policy Reform will resume meeting at 6 p.m. tonight in the basement. Please be on time so we can get out early.
Announcements. The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3 p.m. Monday, February 13th, 2012.
Representative Dean moves that the House adjourns today, adjourns to 3 p.m. on Monday, February 13th, 2012. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Representative Dean.
I move the House do now adjourn.
Representative Dean moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 3 p.m. Monday, February 13th, 2012.